we're not sure whether we'll meet the specification. Where you go? Fresh water would be a good start.
We might as well keep this off. Welcome to everybody.
There was stand-up contact recreation there for potable water.
Welcome everybody. The meeting will be recorded. The subject of the recording being of suitable quality will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel, Council website. Health and safety, there are emergency exits at both ends of the room. If we need to evacuate, use the emergency exits, assemble outside the playground and remain there until building has been cleared. We have apologies from Rebecca and for lateness, I believe, from Brenda. Could I have a motion that the apologies be accepted? Thank you, Lee. Seconded by, well, the Mayor just did that. He moved. And all those in favour? Does anybody have any conflicts of interest with anything on the agenda other than owning a dog?
I've got two.
There we go. You've
got 1.5 conflicts.
So you've got conflicts of interest.
Conflicts of interest.
All right. There are no public participants, ergo there are no actions arising therefrom. Extraordinary business that needs to be added to the agenda, anyone? I've just got a small point that I'd like to note regarding the planning and regulatory report. Just relates to the proposed quarry and crushing site in Featherston, but that's just to be noted in the minutes. Okay, we've got the minutes from the 12th of August meeting. Are there any corrections needed? Can I have a move that they are true and correct record? Thank you, Lee. Seconded. Alistair moved. And all those in favour?
As I moved.
I feel your approval. Carried. There are no notices of motion. We've got the Planning Environment Group report, item B1. Do I have a mover to accept the report? Pam, thank you, via video link. Seconded. Lee, in person. All those in favour? Aye. And that's carried. It's an information report which will take as read, other than anything that Mr. O'Leary would wish to expand upon. Any points that you wish to raise?
I'll just touch lightly on a few topics. So South Wairarapa Spatial Plan and LTP, that's progressing along from a series of 9 meetings, community stakeholder meetings, and summary of themes emerging both in terms of the LTP activities and for this spatial plans / growth consideration points. So that those summaries are being done, and next contact with councillors will be a workshop in terms of engagement considerations, and then further in early December we will look at consideration of growth topic and spatial plan themes and directions for growth. So that's still a work in progress, and we're getting there, but we're quite buoyed by the fact that we've had good feedback on a range of issues. District plan review. The review committee will meet shortly to look at getting on with that district plan review and consideration of the independent chair. So councillors on that, Jeppy and Alistair will contribute to a joint committee for that. So that will be action coming up in terms of first discussions, and mindful of the fact that the district plan review will tackle the key issues across the district that officers raised and brought to the table, but also the smart consideration for RFA review that other new government will want to get some traction on. Proposed dog pound, there was discussion at last council meeting in terms of shared service discussions, and apart from those aspects I've just covered, I don't have anything more yet.
Yeah, that last line in the dog count, Cardiff District Council have recently indicated a hesitancy regarding
communication conveyed to us through Carterton State fittings in terms of cost considerations. So reiterating the topic of, you know, they're wanting to achieve a good result, but mindful of a cost-effective result there. And that was at our last combined discussion by officers, including Dave, myself, Rick and Bob Austin, who's helping us with the costing figures.
So does that mean they're sort of pulling back from it a little bit, or?
No. So I mean, they're keen to see the original costings that we came out with. When we looked at the standards were very high, sort of in the $1 million, I think, 1.2. Dave thought they could be brought back, and so we're back down to about 860,000 now. So we're at a place where we're likely to go to tender and actually see what the market will actually offer to meet the standards. So we're within Kui. So it's not that either party is reluctant, it's just trying to get it into the right ballpark for cost. So the next step probably would be to go to tender.
And that would be an invitation to tender to be submitting, because I'm aware that Victoria Reid Architecture is working on Masterton, isn't she, with an Australian company, I believe. Australian doggy company. So it might be interesting to see if she submits and it's just some learning that she's garnered from Masterton that might help us.
I mean, the key is to make sure whatever the tender must specify the standard that we want the actual to meet all the legal requirements from the MPI. So it happens with apples.
Yeah, and part of that sharing of informational ideas on the table, Dave was of the view a little bit more liberally in terms of what doesn't need to go into the costings in terms of meeting the Animal Welfare Act requirements in terms of all-round animal welfare day and night. So whereas we had a bit of a more specific concern, so that'll be discussed further. But he's reminded us of achieving a cost-effective result.
It's no real surprise they brought it up. Can I have a question just around the hearing? What was the independent around the notable tree register? I'm assuming that's the oak tree in Curitiba Street, is it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that came about through an appeal plus an application for resource consent, and it is at the rear of Curitiba Street, and planners are still in discussion with that applicant there. And part of the deliberation, or trying to get to a decision point, is ideas on the value of the tree and getting that clarified before you make any decision about removal of the tree.
And just one other question. So the Orchard Road division, is that the one at the is it related to the proposed subdivision by at the tail end of what's it called? Mike Gray, not Mike Gray, Graham Gray. Is that related to that, or is that related to the Orchard Road retirement?
Which one are you referring to?
1.1.8.
It's up behind John Hayes' house. It's John Hayes' house.
That's the Orchard Road.
Sorry, yes, sorry.
That was point of contention there was council responding and bringing to the attention of contaminated soil and the addressing of the contaminated land, and that matter is still out for an outcome. But there's been pushback on that, so we've had to be quite firm in terms of making sure that there's no impacts beyond the site in terms of involving contaminated soil being taken off the site. So it's still a work in progress.
And could I have future meetings and noted in the minutes, added to part one of your summary, Russell, updates on the the application for consent for a quarry and crushing plant in Underhill Road, Featherston. As we all know, it's quite contentious, and in my view, seems to run roughshod over our long-term and spatial planning.
Is that,
Your Worship.
is that in regard to the consent that's already been issued or the next part that they're asking for?
Both.
I mean, yeah, my comment was it'd be nice to know the circumstances or whether it should have been notified when Greater Wellington gave the resource consent for quarrying. It looks like it looks like a very brusque non-notification justification, especially with regards to discharge of sediment into the water and the consultation on traffic flow in the area. Possibly it should have been notified. So if we could just query that from the Greater Wellington.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I had a look at the application for Greater Wellington Regional Council, and it clearly stated that no crushing was to occur. So I'm a bit perplexed as to why they are now coming to South Wairarapa District Council for crushing.
It's a crushing decision. All right, yeah, noted. Thanks, Brenda. All of these things need to be looked into.
And if that can be noted in the meeting.
Absolutely.
Perhaps just update the council. So at Featherston Community Board last night, there were 6 people interested in the topic and the fact that we've got a consent before us to decide on. So I gave them an overview of where it's at in the process, day 5 of 20, and that aspects of, in terms of good decision-making process, that careful evaluation of the application as it sits at the moment and whether there's sufficient information. So that's one component that's being worked on. Second aspect is notification decision, and once we've got all the information we need, then ability for the planner to make a decision around non-notification, limited notification, or full public notification. And then the third component, doing the evaluation and making the substantive decision of whether to grant or not. So all that's in the mix. So that took opportunity to point that out to the 6 people there last night, and it'll be followed up by a meeting on Monday night. Time set aside 6 o'clock in the evening through to about 8 for respective landowners to turn up and have questions and learn more about the process and components. So that's happening on Monday night.
Lovely, thanks very much, Russell.
Mr. Chair. Thanks, Russell, for the update. However, it's not just the immediate people that are affected. There is maybe a number of increase in traffic going along Underhill Road. And on Underhill Road is a great big sports facility, and the kids that populate that area during the appropriate season, I'd just like to highlight that as a potential risk.
Thanks, Brenda. Okay.
So
if there's nothing else,
yeah, no, I would just like to just say to Russell and his team that Alex and I met with the owners or the developers of the medical centre going up, and they were highly complimentary of your staff and the consenting process that was followed. And they said it was a wonderful experience dealing with staff. So well done.
Please tell them to put that in.
Thank you very much, Alistair.
Put it in writing, please.
Okay, we move on to the action items report at B2. Do I have a mover to receive that? Brenda, it's your turn. And that's Lee. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Are there any questions from any members about the action items? Okay, moving on. Item C1 is the Dog Control Policy and Practices Report for 2019-20. Do we have a mover to receive that? Thank you, Pam. Seconded. Thank you, Alistair. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's received. Mr. Mead, do you have anything to add to the report?
No.
Nothing at all. Any questions for Mr. Mead? No questions. That is the end of the agenda. That is the end of the meeting at 90 minutes duration. Oh, sorry, I need to recommend the last meeting's open again. I'm going to recommend to council the adoption of the dog control policy and practices report.
I think that's absolutely critical to smooth functioning of the council, so yes.
Oh, what about number 2? Recommend that pursuant to section 10A of the Dog Control Act, we need to do that as well.
Oh, good God.
Absolutely, that too.
Okay, GB.
Leaves us those which we'll roll together with the dog determination. All those in favour?
Absolutely.
We can read that.
Profound, yes.
At least you're not backing up that tree.
They are.
Oh, Harry.
We've done that one as well. Oh.
Meeting
Never
closed.
bloody ever took one of them.
Chair, is the meeting now officially closed? Oh, wait. Is the meeting now officially closed?
Oh, it's closed again.